What's up, chat? I don't know, are we live on the socials already? Let's
I
see.
have no idea. Yeah, it
There
like
you
Hello,
are.
hello.
seems like YouTube is live.
Awesome. Welcome, Benjamin, and welcome everybody.
Hello, hello.
Th-
How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
I mean, a bit in a house war, but good, I would say. Overall, I'm trying to win.
Amazing.
Those are
Maybe
not, I
we have
don't know if
Kids,
those can be won.
kids, no, kids are battling me, wherever I try to hide or run. But it's good. It's good.
maybe we have some special guests again later today. I'm looking forward to it. I'm on my second espresso. So hopefully make it through this session. Um, Welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the title is a bit wrong. It should be a different thing we're discussing here. We'll try and fix that. But we're here to chat about the next section in the proposed economic model for MultiversX called the value accrual flywheel. I'll quickly introduce this format and say how it's going to work, and then we'll try and jump in right away. So these forums are designed to gather specific questions, feedback, suggestions, and amendments on these sections. Um, we'll post the links in the chat here. They've already been posted on X. If you want to just check that out, you should find all the materials you need to follow this section. Um, Robert will start by going through the document as it stands right now. This is a working document, so this isn't finalized. This is not what we're going to be voting on. This is the document as it stands right now, and the document we can amend and improve until it actually is brought to a vote. This is a unique process. Nobody's ever done this before. Nobody might do this again because it's fucking hard. So we're here to experiment with you and do this with you. After Robert has introduced the document and the changes, because there's already quite a few changes based on the feedback that we've had so far. We are going to take a moment, maybe 15 minutes, to ask questions about this specific section. Please keep it to the section. And once everybody is sort of on the same page, has asked the questions and clarifications, then we will move on to actual proposals, amendments, suggestions on this. For that, each speaker will have 5 minutes. Unless there aren't any follow-up speakers, then we can take a little bit longer like we did in the last session. But usually just keep it concise, keep it clear, and come with good proposals that you've thought through. Provide some context if you can. There is a form as well for this, to really be considerate about what you're proposing, because we are trying to improve this proposal constantly as we go along. Once we're done with that section, we'll do a little wrap up, and that will be it for the day, at least for you guys having to watch that. The team then will of course pull an all-nighter trying to integrate as many of the changes as possible and present them back to everyone as soon as possible. So that is the program. I hope that is clear enough. I'm going to toss it over to Robert and start posting some stuff in the chat. And yeah, looking forward to this one. Robert, the stage and document is yours.
Oh, hey. Value accrual flywheel. So, what do we want to do here? And I think this would be one of the most important things for two set of actors, especially are those the builders, or let's say all actors, builders, validators, and investors as well. Everybody who is on chain. Why? So they are when you looking at the fee model A lot have been changed in the last 7, 8 years in the blockchain space. A lot of new experiments were going on, especially starting, let's say, from Ethereum. Ethereum theorized their fee model for a long period of time, and then they integrated it. And then Solana came, made some changes, integrated it, and then now we came, make some changes, and have a governance vote on that. So what is in general? So we want to switch. Even right now, we had priority fees, but all the fees right now were just not minted out of the inflation. That's what happened. Nothing special about those. Distribution were the same, and then we want to change that because that's, let's say, a little bit the wrong model in even from scientific sense and psychological sense as well. So, and we had the 30% of the revenue share for builders, but the 30% was only for the processed gas inside a smart contract. So in case of a smart contract like X exchange, for a general swap, you had around 10% of the fee got to you because of 30% of the processing fees. It yielded around 10% to the developer. And now we want to change this in the following model. 90% for the builders, 10% is burned, and the priority fees which go directly to the developers, not the developers, to the validators, and the validator can choose what they want to do with it. So there is a competition on that. They can create there is an open market on that, and they can choose how they want to reinvest those fees or how to use those fees in order to create more value on the chain. That's the basic portion. As you see with the blue, there are some amendments to this already, as people said that, okay, this model have to curve to more burning, and totally agreed, let's do it. As the developers get more and more used to building applications which are generating revenue, and the growth starts and everything kickstarts, after every year, 5% from the builders is added to 5% to the be burnt. I think in 8 years we get to a split of 50% to the builders and 50% to the to burn. Again, this can be amended through governance vote every year using some measurable KPIs in order to solve this. Now the scope of this part is, let's say, tenfold. First, developers with having this kind of revenue getting back to them, they can offer, let's say, free transactions to the users, and that is a new way of acquiring new users, making it free for a bunch of transactions. Why not? That's a super easy way to acquire users through relate transactions. That's totally simple to do it. One line of code from the SDK dApp, everything is added. And then, because so much is shared with the builders are encouraged to use the chain for its scalability and its purposes. So because we are, let's say, almost 10xing the performance of the chain, or I think even more than 10xing in terms of finality for sure, and the capacity again increases, we can see that, okay, the fees can be distributed otherwise. And it took some time for the scalable chains to understand what does it mean and where you have to distribute the fees in order to make make sense of the block space you are offering for up to the builders. In the end, this share enables to have high frequency apps, a lot of activities, a lot of blocks, and to use the architecture for a sufficient block space. And when the blocks are full, validators have to keep an eye on their machines, because especially from networking side, there will be much more inflow of transactions. So they need to be to to be to verify their performances. And then when all those things, let's say you have full blocks and you have priority fees, it is quite normal to give those to the validators for them to have a clear revenue stream on that. Um, it makes sense because they are the ones processing the transactions. In order, I think that this creates a flywheel in which builders will create more apps, and then with the priority fees, developer, you don't have to worry about it. Like, it is actually, it will be integrated, and it is right now integrated in gas station and in everything on the SDK level, so the user doesn't feel it. And let's say if right now it pays $1 for a transaction, it will pay $1.1 for a transaction, or $1.2 for a transaction. So that's not a big problem. I would stop here, and if ask if Lucian has something to add it in, then we can go into the buckets and how those amendments were made.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe just a quick recap. GM again, high energy, our 2000. Maybe going back a bit, just recapping a bit the process. So if previously in the previous session we discussed and tackled about capital acquire process, especially acquiring more and attracting more liquidity on chain from centralized parties and new capital flowing in. And then on this part, we go and tackle, I think, particularly validators and builders, as Robert mentioned. Now, I want and just restate again the example that I was giving the last days, because it's very important that this is basically a sum. So imagine that we are talking about a growth experiment. So at T0, we have two data centers, AWS data centers, or two protocols that are fully operational for the next 12 months, at least where the costs are covered for the validator. More and make validators more happy. Is one where there are no incentives for no incentives shared with the builders or the applications that are building, and and make meaningful usage of the protocol in the first year, and then after that, actually looking and considering actually also the DeFi incentives that are topping in from the previous example, this combines and actually compounds to the fact that a lot of DeFi applications, ergo, would be a lot more prominent on the chain. Now, what do particularly those DeFi applications have in common? If I look at the usage of that and mostly the logic and understanding how they function, they depend on certain functions, which are, for example, Oracle services, price updating services that are in compared to a normal user, assuming that the base usage will be fully filled. In compared to that, they will, in this case, drive up and top up their gas price in order to prioritize their execution as it is critical for the application logic or serving the ecosystem. How does this translate as a next point in the flywheel cycle? Well, surprisingly, suddenly the validators have a new income stream. So first, users benefit from this. DeFi application and builders have the right incentives. And then how does it actually goes and translates to the validators? So suddenly the validators have a different income stream suddenly from this new economic flywheel proposed, which is independent from the staking reward fees that are typically applied. So surprisingly, suddenly users have more, builders have a clear incentive to grow their user base, and that is and should be the main focus for their application and drive up the usage of their applications, not necessarily launching coins for the first time, and then and again contributing to the existing stack. And then the third point, by having in contrast to the current state where the validators need to charge more the user delegation by covering their cost and so forth, suddenly if the flywheel works, even the base APR could go down, then ergo also even the service fees could go down, because there is a clear new path for income stream for validators, which is the priority fees built in. Now, I think this covers is quite a comprehensive proposal, and think about how boring now it looks like the first data center which just waits for user to come and waits for builder to come, waits for customer to fill their compute space allowed. Now, this is, I hope people can follow the path. Again, I've tried to cover a bit of all the sections because they all tie up to a very, very powerful flywheel. And then, of course, this is a preliminary. I think we should look at this as a fully adjustable system and consider the KPIs as the most relevant point to validate or invalidate this, and adjust any kind of the variables. But I let again Robert maybe take over. I hope this sums up up until this point in a very, very, very complete flywheel on how I look at things, and would love actually to see them translate in practice.
Robert, you're muted.
I will not take necessarily over because we discussed that we will stay in this section for now, discuss it all, and then move to the next section, just to not to have it dynamic between the people. Already people are want to ask some questions.
Yes, we have Micha up here. We'll start a 2-minute timer for these questions. I did see a hand earlier. I don't see it right now. I also know Eddie is going to come up. But Micha, for now, please have the stage. 2 minutes to ask some question.
Just questions or also solutions potential?
That's after.
All right, quick question. Robert mentioned the priority fees. Going to validators 100%, that's clear, and mentioned that they can be reinvested or should be reinvested in some sense to the ecosystem. How does this happen? Do the funds go directly to the validators, or do they go to a fund which can be like a DAO, which then can be decided on how they will be invested?
No,
I see DAOs taking over everywhere.
No, I think that this kind of thing, as let's say Solana is doing it pretty well in this. validators receive it directly, and then the community decides who are the good validators and who are, let's say, those who are not good, and then the community goes towards those who are re-injecting the received priority fees towards them or towards DeFi or towards the, builders. So it has to be a community thing, and then let the free market rule.
I think with the right dashboard, especially having now having a clear separated income stream for that, you could almost arbitrage and see, hey, is this a fair price what that my validator or staking provider is charging me for the delegation? Does he contribute in the meaningful way? And then if doing that, and by doing that, actually, is there a meaningful contribution or a fair price for me as a participant to still delegate to that? But again, this is just a high level overview.
Micha, any
Okay,
follow-ups? Or will
not
we
for now, but for later.
We will see you in the next section for sure. Appreciate the question. And I think, Eddie, you can come up because I don't see the other hand up anymore.
Hey guys, good to be here. I would ask for maybe a very short 20 seconds response on what are the income streams for the validators. So from what I see is commission on delegated stake and the priority fees. Is this it?
I mean, depends on the part that depends on how the protocol evolves. For now, we are exploring, and I think with the supernova, just to put it like that, we have the opportunity to rethink the entire request response connectivity to the blockchain. So assuming that there is a block time mode at 600 milliseconds, we could finally translate the entire logic that lends requests or reads and writes requests to the blockchain through the validators. I see this evolving finally, actually, that where validators will play even a critical, more important role as things evolve and the stakes are getting higher. I'm not mentioning MEV, but actually I'm just putting that there are a lot of other stuff where yeah, I think protocols would go towards.
Quick follow-up. Any metrics on what priority fees could mean, considering today's state, considering the targeted goal, and maybe something in between? Of course, I'm not saying yes. I mean, because everything is going to be priority fees to 1,000, right? But something realistic. Did anybody run any numbers on this?
Yes. So let's say with the current numbers, there are no priority fees because the blocks are not full. That's pretty decent in some sense. But once you get to a 10x improvement from the current moment, you start to have priority fees. I think even with 2x improvement on shard 1, you will get priority fees even right now. So if the market starts to move, shard 1 will have priority fees in a continuous way. It just shows in the Explorer. And then just as a number, for example, priority fees on Solana are 4 times the total fees of 4 times the base fees as of right now. This is a number, and in their case it's I don't know around how much in dollars per day, but
It doesn't really matter. 4 times base fees, it's pretty clear. However,
okay, so you can calculate, let's say, for base fee on 600 million gas or 1 billion gas per seconds, because that will be the number on Supernova, and then let's assume a 4x on top of that for priority fees,
right,
which goes
there is another thing here, Robert. Solana's sharding is beautiful, but is non-existent. You know, they have no sharding. So they have no other way but go to priority fees, right? We have alternatives. We have shards.
Yeah, but still here is a but. You cannot shard the liquidity pool and you cannot shard some of the DeFi. Some of the other DeFi you can. So, and again, as let's say Supernova evolves and you see if, let's say, if the priority fees are not 10 times what the base fees are or something extreme, there is not yet reason to shard more, to split more. So it can come with a number in which splitting shard actually uh, uh, like aligns validator rewards and everything around it.
If I may, just to double down, indeed, I think the entire proposal, even from the initial version of the white paper, we said indeed, and Eddie brought a very good point that there will be what the difference here is that MultiversX sharding architecture can scale horizontally with the network needs, and I think we have defined initially, even 7 years ago, that once there is enough demand, block space demand, and there's enough sustainable economic incentives that in order to shard even more, that will be the process. However, there's a sweet spot that will be adjusted indeed. But then also, if I look at the contrary and the example, like if again, because Solana was brought up, if we look at the way they are focusing on and tackling that, the main point there would be to bring only financial applications, and then also to have a clear way to arbitrage or drive in or put enough value inside the chain state that even though with higher priority or higher right cost to the state or access cost to the state, that should be easily predictably arbitrage against if an access state will be done or not. Ergo, that translates that a lot of the compute demand that is not that critical and not that valuable, for example, any general or trace any non-financial application that just requires to store data on chain or have just traceability use cases, RWA use cases, and other stuff will most likely need to migrate to a different chain that has the capacity to onboard and put this computation or make space for this kind of computation stuff without kicking them or without driving the prices to the roof. Right, so just a bit of context where I think the model differs, and then a very good point actually brought by Eddie on this.
Awesome. Thank you, Eddie. Maybe we'll see you in the next segment.
Sure.
For now, we'll move
Thank-
on to the next segment. Oops, I kicked him off stage before he could finish his sentence. But that's what happens in a messy democracy. Hello, Claudio. Welcome to the stage. 5 minutes for you to
Hello, guys. So, unfortunately, Lucas, I have a question that regards the first section with
No
the
worries.
questions.
Go for it.
So, first of all, it seems that at least for what we are doing now, I have the X exchange hat, not from the MultiversX. So it seems that it is indeed a way forward for many of us to start looking at our backend APIs and put them on chain. Because it becomes it becomes obvious that if we are doing more things that on the chain, it will be important. So maybe one question for you, Robert, in terms of the builders' fees from the transactions. I'm curious how the current model works for the composable contracts, and how the fees are distributed between multiple contracts that are called in the same transaction, and if there is a difference from the current economic to the one that we are proposing now.
I think I heard this kind of question in the morning. because let's say Near had a problem that they were calculating only the top smart contract, which was calling the others, and only the top received the share. But in the current model, the VM actually calculates how much gas every single smart contract used, and that's an output of the VM in the VM output. And from those gas used, the 30% was calculated for each of the owner of that smart contract. That's how it works now, and I suppose that it will work similarly in the next phase. I will have to look deep in the how the first transaction fee will be split for the takes data and the gas price at that time. I have no response right now, like in clear technical terms, what will mean. But as we go on into the development phase, it will be added. But again, it wants to be a clear, like every smart contract, whatever it used, it receives.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Claudio. We'll see you in a second, hopefully, maybe. Micha, this time you have 5 minutes, and you can come with all the suggestions you want in that time. Please go ahead.
All right, so I was thinking about in the break about this new 5% decay basically over the next 8 years for builders. And I'm validating these rules against, validating the draft against rules that I have. And one of them is that the incentives should maximize the amount of transactions that users want to do on the network. So basically anything that is a Web2 action right now should be a Web3 action based on the incentives. So as an example, at PME, we have a forum with upvoting system. These happen off-chain right now because right now it's too expensive to do all these things. With the new 90% proposal, the static one, it was quite interesting to think about putting them on chain. And now again, we're back to, okay, asking if it makes sense that, okay, we start with 90%, but every year now we have a slight incentive, or actually every action becomes quite more expensive year after year. So I think this is quite in violation of this rule that I'm using to validate the proposal against. Do you have like any idea for this? And maybe also because I think this is the place for proposals. I was thinking that it could make sense to have a more dynamic system where by default there's a 50-50 split between burn and the developer reward. And this increases based on a KPI that we decide, which can be, for example, the last 30 epochs, the last months, how many transactions did you do? Individually, the percentage then increases, right? So basically what we do is we build into the protocol an incentive, a motivation for builders to generate more transactions individually. So if I put this now to an example, someone who has now a complete iOS app that is completely off-chain, they start by introducing a token. They have a staking smart contract. Now they have a 50% split, but they learn that in order to maximize this, maximize the reward they get from the transaction fees, they have to put more. They have to generate more transactions, and for this they are incentivized directly by the protocol. This is built into the protocol that they have to put all the app interactions, actions on chain in order to maximize the reward. And I think this is a long-term alignment that could make more sense than what is currently more of a disincentive for Web2 actions to turning them into Web3 actions. Hope that makes sense.
Yes, I would just jump into this one. I think the point here is not we are not trying to put just every database call that you would typically can do with a lot less money and non-relevant necessarily to be put on chain. What you can do, for example, even with the voting contracts, where you could have different algorithms, for example, that we use typically, for example, in the governance systems with straight tree snapshots and then increment on that. However, we don't want to encourage to put irrelevant stuff on chain that have no economic incentive or no economic value, right? So the question is this for you? Can you build the protocol in such a way that the voting will have in itself a meaningful impact that could drive your application towards a product market fit that eventually will sustain and make your application allow or continue once it gains the right traction, that it will become self-sustainable in the sense of the product market fit, value capture, that you will be able to pay yourself or cover the costs yourself for that. If not, then maybe just it's good to rethink if that particular action deserves to be on chain, not only for the for short-term value capture of this kind of incentives, right? But that's the beauty of it, that because in this way, I think we have also both an incentive program where people can start testing out, and then we also have the filtering process where all the stuff that do not belong there would be uh, 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 yeah cleaned up. Curious if this answers the question a bit, Mika.
I would have a
One
response to this. I do agree with a lot that you said, but maybe like there is I think networks effect, they start small. They start by putting trivial things on chain and building on top of this. And this is how we first build applications on top that then can be reused by others who do transactions. So I think this expands exponentially by first putting trivial actions on chain and then expanding that way. And I think still that this is an incentive, a disincentive to actually enabling these network effects.
But isn't this a year enough, or 2 years or 3 years enough to validate if this is to expand from the simple to more complex stuff? I mean, let me put it this way. From my perspective, I think it's we if we don't manage in 12 months or in 24 months to put really complex stuff that are meaningful in this, I'm not I cannot be bullish enough, so to say, if if we're not gonna make that transition.
So that's why so there are two things I wanted to add. Some of the KPIs at the protocol level are impossible to implement. And then you cannot ask, let's say, for the protocol to change every 3 months, because that brings, let's say, for us, a month of work. That's for any release you have, let's say, a month of work, because you testing, auditing, releasing, procedures have to be made, and a lot of
But
engineering costs on that. Just saying out that
yeah,
in the
please,
protocol,
sorry.
it has to be contained. And then that's why it is added that every year this number is re-evaluated, because we want to see what is meaningful and what is not meaningful, what generates revenue. And again, in 1 year, if you start from when it starts and you have that kind of buffer, it accumulates. And after that, you have those buffer to be used later on. And let's say right now you have to have only 1/10 of your users to generate revenue for you, and in 8 years you have to get that every second generate some kind of revenue for you. So it is a process of going into a profitable way.
I just want to maybe, and then place the mic again to Mika. I think that because it's a very good point, but curious, how do you look at in terms of time span that you think we should allow applications to come from simple stuff to more complex stuff? Because this is, I think, the only relevant thing. We're talking about the same thing, but I think the only point of essence is the time window that we should allow, right?
Maybe just if I may, and then I'll let Mika. I think we generally, up until this point, have always taken the first principle, perfect solution, universal solution that the world will catch up on. And now maybe what we're trying to do is take a very grounded, pragmatic approach where we do one step that works well, validates, then expand this, and so on. And although we're still aligned on that, we most certainly want to be intentional and say there may be many other things, but certainly this type of things would be a good fit, and that's what we're maybe validating in the first step. Hope it makes sense.
Yeah, I think we need to see, like, do developers actually pick up on it, or do they think a little bit long term and won't even start? But the good thing is that this is all part, I think, as mentioned, part of the governance and also determined by KPIs. So it's flexible to go forward with this. And I think I used my time because I would have a second topic, but I might need to send you a voice note for that.
No, it's fine. I don't see any requests at the moment, so let's give Mika another 3 minutes.
Definitely.
I think I need 5. Okay, no, it's mostly
5 it is.
about the priority fees and how it is in alignment with builders and user experience and even users. So I think, as you mentioned, there will be this loop, basically, right? Like where not just builders will try to fill up block space, but also validators, because they have the incentive of the priority fee. So on that side, it's good for builders to have 90% rebate in the beginning. That will have them relay transactions, try to have a good user experience for the users at a cheap rate, if we rely here. But if we take the scenario further, right, like where validators will fill up the blocks to the point where, to maximize their 100% priority fee, then we actually end up in a place where they can take over this priority fee market, take them as technically high as we want. I think Robert mentioned 4x. And now we're at the place where builders, projects have to pay a premium to validators in order while relaying project fees for users, right? So we are doing a service to our users and paying a premium as part of the priority fee. I think there's a slight misalignment here.
Mika, I just want to jump into this. You have to make cost calculations for it because the costs are not trivial for filling up the blocks, even right now, and even with a 10x. Let's say if you look at that only let's like 9/10 of it you receive it. Let's say you have a 10x improvement on the fees. Even then, the cost of running that sort of attack is more than the rewards per day.
I mean,
So
it's very much
I agree, but it is just economically to put some smart contracts and to target them just for the 90% of the revenue of that economically doesn't make sense, because you are burning 10% of your funds every single day. If you burn 10% of your funds every single day, like it's a slippery slope, and even if you get back like only 10% you burn, after 10 days or 15 days, I think you are at zero.
I agree that this is a good thing, and that we try to fill up block space, whether that's through project transactions or arbitrary transactions. But something not to forget is that this is at first thing a globally shared per shard cost for all validators. So this is not something one validator pays by himself. This makes it a lot cheaper. And then second thing is that this can be targeted too, right? Like this is not something you have to constantly drive up. You can potentially anticipate when you're the proposer and only fill up these blocks, right? So the cost drastically diminishes while you still reap the reward as a validator.
Not
I
quite.
would
So I think there's 2 points. I think there's some KPIs on the first, generally speaking, on the you on the relayed accepted proposal, right? So we're having on that sense. And secondly, also there should not be the subsidized fees can be capped given the performance. So assuming that literally there are blocks produced at 600 milliseconds, nobody, like, if if there's a cap on that, and definitely there should be a cap on the max subsidized fee, that okay, 600 milliseconds, if you need, if even though the block is, assuming that the block is already filled, you won't be actually paying a subsidized premium of 10 times, right? Just because there's a subsidy, and then you could actually, the validators could just arbitrage that and drive the price up. So I think what you're saying is that it needs to be of some sort of a economic alignment there. And yeah, if you want to burn 10% of your funds every single time you're spending, sure. I mean, the blockchain is happily to collect that.
But I would also flip a bit the entire thing because it almost sounds incredible what we're discussing about. Um, Being in a situation where the entire block space is filled and people need to pay a premium for getting transactions and so on is not only not a bad thing, it's the best problem we could have because it would validate everything that we built. It would mean that several competing applications are using this, and it would mean that the revenue of the network is going through the roof. Now, I still believe that what you're saying is pertinent, Mika, in the sense that how can we actually still offer the best type of experience, speed, cost, and so on within that parameter. But I think that's not, let's say, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's the best type of challenge we want for the network. And I very much agree with you that it's a good thing to think about it. And I just think that all things being equal, if tomorrow we would be in that situation and could not keep up with the growth and with how much we need to process, I think everyone would actually be excited. People would cry of happiness because we would actually have validated everything we want to. We've been building this toward. Just stating the maybe obvious elephant in the room, and then that's where sharding can scale further. That's where the fiber network actually can take us to things that we've not even discussed about, but are still hidden somewhere in the let's say technology stack. Just 2 cents, 2 equal cents.
Yes, it's definitely a good problem to have. Wait, need to disable the notifications for a second. It's a good problem to have. I definitely agree, but I also thought first that the priority fees are unlikely in the very beginning, sharding and all this. But if we look deeper, with the rebate for anyone who authors a smart contract, this situation might not be as unlikely, right? That we have a very filled up block space and priority fees even. And I understand that this is a very attractive property for VCs, definitely. But it should not be at the cost of projects trying to do a service for their users by sponsoring transactions and paying a premium for validators. And then maybe one more thing, and that builds on the question I had before for Robert, which is where do the priority fees go to? Do they go to the validators directly, or do they go to a shared fund that is being forced to be reinvested into the ecosystem? Because if they go directly to the validator, then like another rule I have, and this is, I love you all just saying this, but I think the system and the protocol should build in the rules that no extraction can occur on the cost of users, right? And I think if we don't have a fund for validators and can be sure that the priority fee will be reinvested, potentially back to relayer services, then some amendments potentially might be necessary.
Definitely amendments will be necessary either way, regardless of the discussion, just to start up with. I don't wake up thinking that the life would be as an end state as I wake up at the start of the day, and nor I expect almost any system, even Bitcoin will change and have changed, just to put it that way. Secondly, I think the goal with that should be the cost of validator and the cost of delegation should be should be a marginal optimal number against the cost for the user delegation, right? On the one hand, that should actually be the case. I don't expect that this transaction subsidy should hold forever, nor I expect or want to see validators with huge service fees once this is a separate income stream. Ergo, if we look at how in practice worked, most of the services on other networks operate at zero cost just because the relevance of the stake delegation and the amount of validator nodes in the network have a very high impact and a very high or different revenue stream for the validators. Ergo, users do have zero fee, zero delegation costs. Ergo, validators have more user fees, right? So just putting like this, I don't think that forcing everything into a DAO has the right effect. Even though I hear everywhere injecting DAOs, and I love the DAOs and I love actually the progress. Again, I have not. I don't think that this aligns the necessarily the incentives clear enough.
And maybe to just add one point, what we're introducing where we're saying priority fees is we're introducing something that others have introduced much faster, which is market-based mechanisms to adapt in real time and to enable people to play different games at the same time. So there's always the base channel, you can do the stuff and so on, but you also want to optimize this and scale it much, much further. It almost seems at first that we're trying to think through 10 steps of the process and solve everything right now, where in fact what we're saying is a fiber network, if it's truly used, should have market-based mechanisms that enable it to adapt. Once you have that, you'll see a spring of like a well of new ideas, competing ideas, with people driving them, showcasing them, and beating some of the others. And competition is probably the best mechanism that just enables this openness. And so, again, very much agree. Whenever you see the problem actually happening, appearing, ping us and we'll find the solution together.
I have
That's
another.
please.
I have another, and I think there's something taken out of the equation and the entire model because here's the thing. Like if I look at again other protocol implementation without putting names anymore for marketing reasons on them, they on purpose, for example, disable the features such as mempool. Mempool has a particularly a function that allows a transaction to be temporarily stored until it hits the parameters needed. And parameters needed translates on the one hand nonce, it translates to particularly also gas price, and gas limit less. I think gas limits either way needs to have above what it's needed, but particularly gas price. Now, how does this translate into practice? In a world where you don't have this kind of stuff, where you don't have a mempool, the transaction should be land to or come as close as possible to a proposal that could integrate this transaction and validate the capacity of the block size or the block space to integrate or land that transaction. If not, then it will be rejected. Well, in this case, if you want to have a priority, if you want to make sure that your transaction is critical, even right now, even in any other network, if your transaction is to the highest importance to enter and front run everyone and you are willing to do that, that should be a normal case. When if not, then that's the function that we are not looking and not proposing to disable the mempool, where you could say, hey, I'm okay to pay a lot less and please hold this for me and schedule it for execution whenever I can afford to. that I don't think all transactions are equal and should be treated like yes, they all should just land in the same block at one time, right? So I think this is again a very important factor that plays a role into the pricing mechanism.
I'll just come in here real quick saying Micha is on stage. We still don't have any other hands
Michael,
up.
yeah,
So
are
we
you
can
still
By
with
you
us?
show
continue.
here.
We
We
will
can
have to go
continue
to
the
the next section as well.
Yeah, Mihai brought what build a market where you buy gas units. Oh, and then sell them higher.
The guy likes DeFi. I don't know
Yeah,
what to tell you.
but just to give an answer, yeah, it's not a problem that we have right now. It's definitely good to fill the blocks to have the burn. It's just important, I think, because this is a risk for extraction in the future, depending on how well this works or not. This reinforcing loop basically, and that maybe in the future this can be adapted. Like depends on the governance procedures.
They will be adapted for sure, without the question. Again, we're talking about a year with stimulus for the network where we want to increase all the metrics or the critical metrics, uh, and this is the only reason why we're doing the changes. And once this function is being what all the changes are being validated, then definitely uh, changes the way to go.
Maybe I'll just add my layman's understanding here also, for the people out there. So right now with this new 90-10% split, what actually happens in practice is that smart contract owners, so project builders or whoever has the smart contract ownership, essentially once the smart contract is called, get back 90% of the gas fee charged, meaning that they have incentives or the possibility to incentivize this usage of the fee because they're that much cheaper once they're called. So that's, I think, a very interesting way of stimulating that particular usage for it. And I have a great segue. Somebody who might use this a lot is joining us on stage right now. Welcome, Ovidio.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. I hope you hear me well. Sorry that I wasn't able yesterday to jump in, even if Benjamin asked me. I was in my car driving, looking for a parking spot. It was too late.
No problem.
So
No problem. It's great to have you here.
I will just quote from the proposal, and I say like this: 90% to builders. This portion is directed to the smart contract authors or owners. I want to have a little discussion here. Like Joachim said, and I think even Miha in the past talks, from my point of view, and I don't want to accuse me that I'm very objective. um um, Working with ownership of the smart contracts, I think is not reflecting 100% how a production applications works on MultiversX. And I'm talking about what Gaupa is building, what the new Inspire version will build, what Miha with all his products is building, and of course what we at VeroPay are building. So from my point of view, having the fact that we have this amazing concept of relayer transaction at protocol level, and every project it's able to pay the gas fees for their users. Doesn't matter it's a DeFi project, it's a Web2 project, whatever. I think it could be a good way to define something regarding the relayer usage on the transactions. I don't know, maybe a whitelist mechanism for certain addresses that are relayer from some projects. I hope you
Definitely.
understand. Yeah,
Yes. I mean, very good point, and I think it was almost. I don't say it with the exact same words, just not to add immediate work, but even more work to be stipulated in those documents. But yes, that is what we were thinking about, and this is not arbitrary transactions that we want to sponsor. We want to have a meaningful usage.
exactly. That was my thought that I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
and
to.
also even doubling down, Ovidiu, on that, what I meant with reviewing, almost also reviewing the potential of the transaction logic, if as the demand increases, re-reviewing the subsidized or the whitelisted actions for the applications could be a process. So, for example, as long as there is no demand, then more open stuff should be explored. As the demand is being filled, and in order to avoid any spams and unreasonable cost increase on that level, or for the users, and unuseful funds to be spent, then the applications that had already a period of time of free subscription, so to say, should be re-reviewed if they have achieved product market fit, and if the actions that are being subsidized are literally adding valuable computation to the chain. I hope this comes closer to what you're saying.
Very, very close. Thank you very much for understanding. And that
No,
was
no.
thank you.
Amazing proposal, and yes, we are thinking about it. And don't. The last thing I want is actually just to play the other and give up an insight of the other hat that I'm wearing. You don't want to know the discussions in the protocol team when it comes to the state size and the infra team increasing the state history and the accessibility and the overhead cost that actually adds at the burden of the infra underneath. So being mindful to that, we are definitely don't want to sabotage and just put unnecessary burden at the sake of increasing some numbers.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
And the one thing that we are sort of rediscovering ourselves and introducing within the network and the protocol, one step at a time, is market mechanisms at every level that enable us to price the transaction correctly, price the demand correctly, ignite a bit the demand as it's needed at first, and then just make sure that things move in the right direction. There's always schools of thought here, but what we're discovering is what people have discovered throughout the hundreds of years, that communism is not enough, that you need markets on top of things, that you need to exchange some things with other people to almost generate a bit of initial traction, to then have the others actually pick up on that traction, be able to resell it, be able to get that demand, and so on. So just even for us, once we discussed about the prioritization of fees and also this type of whitelisting UX part, things started to connect much faster, because we were not the only one. Actually, once you look around, we're just maybe either among the first or among in some cases we are the first, and in some other cases we just need to wake up and introduce this into the models as well. But
Amazing.
great to have you,
Amazing.
Ovidiu.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, video. I will bring that down to the audience. I will remind the audience that right now, if you don't want to be in the audience, but you want to be one of the speakers with a proposal and some great input, this is your time to request the mic.
Could we go to the
This is
next section or not?
oh, which section then?
Don't we
Priority
go to
fees?
the two buckets as well, or we just stay today with this?
Um, let me review. Is it still in the same section? We can definitely talk about everything that's
Technically
in
is a
chapter
section
3.
3, section 4.
Yeah, then we'll discuss that tomorrow.
Okay,
Bit
good.
bit by bit, we work through this, giving each of the sections.
Yeah, no. So I think it's under the same section, under the same point 3, what Robert mentions. I think it's only just the point B.
There's the protocol reinvestment there. I think that's where it's up.
Yeah, that was under point B, but like nobody actually commented a lot on this. Only the one question was how buybacks would happen, and then let's say if non-EGLD is captured as revenue, and again they are literally open contracts which are written in which all the fees can you have only one way buy it from, let's say, X exchange or S swap, like two markets I'm thinking, or one dex, and then stake it back to the EGLD. So that was it. I haven't seen any other questions around this type of thing about the protocol revenue reinvestment strategy.
Cool. Well,
And then you
again,
start the floor, but we don't want that.
yeah, let's keep it for tomorrow. There's no harm in wrapping up a bit earlier and integrating some of the great feedback we got, or reviewing some of the things. Please,
Definitely no harm. I would say
Don't send us home.
and
Don't send us home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely no harm.
one thing I'll remind people of again is there is the proposal form or amendment form. If you have done calculations, for example, when this priority fee would kick in, how much, like if there's anything harmful that you see in your projections that you can clearly point to in a model, that would be super helpful in order for any adjustments to be made. Because yeah, we're basing these things on science as much as we can, and models that do real projections. We'll share, I think you mentioned, Robert, some of these projections that you've made, that the team has made on validator fees and priority fees as well. But if you come to different conclusions based on your models, please do share these models with us, so we can review and find common ground. Um, if there isn't more from the audience for now, again, you can always um, just submit your feedback as well. We'll start wrapping it up, and I'll give it to this great panel, and I'll start with Robert.
Oh, easy day. So I can have like a half an hour break and then start to rewrite again everything. Not everything, but to add the amendments. And that's great. And then do some Excels. Definitely good feedback. I think that everybody is getting aligned and we get so many points of view, but I feel this kind of excitement about this new economics proposal, and that's what we want: excitement, opportunities for everybody, for competition, and let's build it.
Nice, Lucian.
I'm already thinking on the implementation of the feedback in the how fast can we put in practice also
More.
what I was no, yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's the point. I'm thinking, how can we do the how simple can we translate the adjustments, such as, for example, if needed, if we see that the builder revenue acquire is too high and the block space are too filled and so forth. How fast can we change any of that without complicating at the protocol level with and delaying the production of the most important stuff. Again, this is an opportunity window that we want to focus on. Everything indeed is doable in code, and especially us engineers want to use the engineering skills in any way possible to make it put everything on chain, put everything in a super detailed way, and shipping that to production to be proud of. But mostly the time is of pure essence here, and especially the simplicity also, and being actually able to coordinate and review the KPIs and upgrade those config files and push them to production is, I think, extremely valuable. So I'm just in already thinking through and trying to accommodate a lot of that, and looking forward for the fastest way actually to and the most eloquent way to achieve those things. But again, really good discussions here.
Great. Final word for you, Benjamin.
Chinese capital markets. Um, I think we should have not only Supernova implemented, but then we should enable any other chain to be able to scale with Supernova and with MultiversX. And now we're also preparing the marketplace through which we can offer this to them and make a premium on the transactions. On a more serious note, very much appreciate the thoughts, the perspective from some of the builders, and a lot of the people you can see come from different lenses, and it's very valuable to hear their thoughts, hear their perspective, process this, and just make it work. I would almost leave this note: Supernova just changes the game for us. And we definitely can go in many directions with that. But on top of Supernova, to have markets, to just have this way of adapting, capitalizing, and pricing the block space for different categories of users, builders, and so on. It's great. I see that the Chinese capital markets are catching on in the comments. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. We would love to hear from you. We love you, as Misha said, and looking forward to the next conversations and sharing the updates. Have a good one.
Awesome.
Have a good
One
one.
last time, I will share the links in the chat, and I'll remind you, we'll probably change the schedule a little bit for tomorrow, just the times, update you on that as soon as possible. Then put out as much of these working drafts as fast as possible to give everybody a chance to review. Please keep your feedback coming. It's been great. It's been extremely helpful. It's changed the initial proposal already quite a bit, and for the better. So really appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody contributing. This is great. This is actually fun and not exhausting at all. So we're happy you're here, and really appreciate actually all the work that comes into this from the outside, because we're only here because of you. Um, appreciate all of you, and see you tomorrow. The founding, the forging continues. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Have a good
Cheers.
one.